following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Insider's Edge podcast here on the WZWA Network. I'm your host with the most on the West Coast, Karlifornia and Piers. What a joy, what a privilege to be with you all once again. And you know, when we do the Insider's Edge podcast, it's not just about interviewing wrestlers. I've had referees, I've had ring announcers, I've had journalists, I have had co-authors, I've had producers, I've had a whole bunch of different kinds of people within the industry and even just on the outskirts of the industry, like someone like myself. And I have one of those guys here with me tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the host of Shooting the Shit Uncensored, co-host of Wrestling with Tragedy, one of the big kahunas from the MWA Podcast Network, the one and only bald, the beard, the beautiful, the host with the most on the East Coast, Piers Austin. How are you, bro?
Man, what an introduction, bro. Damn, you really got my shit down, bro. I'm like, fuck, dude. If you added in the dad bod god, man, I know that you're really up to date. But man, bro, thank you for having me on it. It's an absolute pleasure to sit back and have a conversation with you, man. We've recently been in contact, and man, yeah, I love what you've been doing with your show, man. Definitely appreciate you out there grinding, bro, just like the rest of us out there, man. And you're doing some amazing work, dude.
Thanks, bro. You too, man. We're the two best in the country, in the hemisphere. Okay,
that's a big call, man.
No offense to Chili Willy over in the Philippines there, but you and I, as far as I'm concerned, we're doing some good work, bro, and I appreciate your compliments. And that's why I'm so excited to have you on the show, because we've had some conversations. We've had fun having those conversations. So I thought if we record it, other people can have fun watching us have a chin wag here about wrestling what it is that we do, my friend. And every time I interview someone, bro, I always have to start at the beginning. I love this kind of story. How did you become a wrestling fan when you were younger? What was it that bit you, the bug that bit you, that you couldn't get away from it?
Well, man, like, dude, I was born in 82, so I'm an 80s baby, right? So for me, like, the Hulkamania thing, that was a big thing for me. Like, when Hogan winning the title, the big leg drop, WrestleMania 1, like being like that, we were in a different area to that, and getting access to that wasn't easy for us as kids back then. But like, my cousins would have videos, so it might have been like a year or two after I was like 4 or 5, or I don't know. But seeing, sorry, like the WrestleMania, seeing Hulk Hogan, that sort of drew me into it. And then I started seeing like Roddy Piper, man, like just crack the skull of like Superfly Snooker, and you know what I mean, and like seeing Shawn Michaels super kick Marty Jannetty through the, you know what I mean, like I had a thing for the heels, bro. I love seeing like the bad motherfuckers just do their thing. And like, I've never been a cookie cutter type of guy, so even as a kid, man, I was a bit of a bad kid, so bad guy. But I definitely attracted more towards that, and that really sort of pulled me into it, I believe.
Right. So this is an interesting perspective, because like, I didn't become a fan until like 1998, when my friends kind of turned me onto it.
Yeah.
So you get to start from all the way back then, as a fan, noticing, and you're getting older as well, noticing the changes within wrestling. How did that affect your fandom? Did you end up finding out about companies like ECW in the 90s, or did you find out about WCW and watch that as well? As you move into that kind of like, from the WrestleMania era, the Hulkamania era, into that like that new generation, and there's TL Hopper and all these kinds of characters. How did your fandom kind of change through the years from all that?
Well, I think as well, like there was probably a couple years where like wrestling wasn't as easy access as what we would expect it, or hope it would have been. So like, there's probably like a couple years where a little bit gray. But like, when I think probably like 97 96, 97, leading into the Attitude Era, I really got into it again, like heavily, like probably more so than when I was a young kid. Like when I was a young kid, like I was a 5-year-old walking around wearing my yellow fucking undies going, I'm Hulk Hogan. But like as getting to being going into the young adult and seeing more of that risque shit and going into puberty, that was more of like a thing. It was like, prepubescence and stuff like that, going through and seeing some of the wild shit that we saw there. Like, but to me, wrestling changed over the time. Like when I saw Hulk Hogan turn heel, I was like, fuck yeah, that's badass. Like that's about time. You know what I mean? So those sort of things were just sort of like amalgamating for me, like seeing these things come together and me always being able to see what wrestling is. Like I always had a lot of questions about like how wrestling works mechanically. I've always loved it, always respect it, but I always went, how does it work? Like what, you know what I mean? Like one guy throws another guy into the ropes, but the guy why wouldn't he just stop? One guy's on top of the other guy throwing 10 punches into the head, but there's no bruise, there's no blood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Why? Like that was to me, like my mind always thought like that, where like other kids wouldn't, but it didn't make me dislike it. It didn't make me like think anything of it. Like I was able to still disconnect and enjoy the moment of what I was seeing in front of me and being like, all right, cool. Like I can still get into it and be a little fucking muck and stuff like that. But like, there was always that thing in my mind going, I wonder how this is all being put together. Like what is the mechanics behind it? If that makes sense.
Yeah, man, there's such a charm to that kind of fandom back then when, you didn't quite really, I mean, you knew, but you didn't quite know how things worked. And in my little warped mind, for whatever reason, I was like, okay, like I know this is all predetermined. This is kind of like, this is, it's all staged kind of thing. But when the Big Boss Man and Scott Steiner wrestled, for whatever reason, I was like, they're the only two that are allowed to do it for real, though. Like, I don't know why. That's just what my assumption was.
It's funny you say that because, like, I remember, and I've said this before on other podcasts I've been on, that, like, I remember being a kid and then, like, Hulk Hogan leaving WWF, right? And then it was like, oh, yeah, it used to be real, right? But then it became, like, staged. And then it will, choreographed or whatever you want to, like, however you want to call it. That's why Hulk Hogan stopped, bro. Like that was our like kid like what 8, 9, 10-year-old mentality where it was like, yeah. Because it was like, it stopped being legit, bro. Like that's why Hogan stopped. And like, you look at Hogan and his career and like, he was not a legitimate fucking bad, like, you know what I mean? Like he would have been like the very far down on that totem pole, but that was the kid mentality when you don't know any better.
Absolutely, man. And, again, the charm of being a wrestling fan in Australia, especially during this time, for me, there were no websites. There was nothing I could go on when I first got into it. And, it took me a while. A friend eventually introduced me to lordsofpain.net. And then I'd also go on themayhem.com, which became nodq.com, WrestleZone, Wrestling Inc., all of those websites. But before all of that, the charm of tape trading. Did you buy tapes on the internet, have them sent to you, and you finally get to see the shit?
Well, dude, like ECW, like our video store, like just to sort of take it back a bit, and I apologize for this, but so our video store had like a few ECW tapes, and I'm talking like ECW from like, there was like like a couple of like 93 like Eastern Championship Wrestling tapes, which I grabbed them, right? I grabbed them. There was a match on there with Sandman and Cactus Jack in a no rope barbed wire match. There was like they had heaps of from that era, right? So they had like maybe 4 or 5. Bro, every week I would rent these tapes, the same tapes, because I just like, I couldn't get enough of it. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was WWE still, because I'm like 12, 11, you know what I mean? Like going, oh yeah, that's that Mankind guy. Oh, you know what I mean? And then I was like, oh, okay, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, but hang on, why is it called ECW? But I started getting that, and then like we got like a few other ones, like the later ones, which was around the 2000 mark, but that was like 1 or 2 DVDs. But it's funny when you said tape trading, because before like online shit, right, we got magazines and we got wrestling magazines, and I really found I came across XPW, CZW, Ring of Honor. Yeah, and I think CZW was first. CZW and XPW were two first because I started seeing them in 99. I think Ring of Honor came in around 2002 or something like that. But I saw that. I'm like, holy shit, what the fuck is this? Look, that's ultra violent shit. These guys are fucking like, because, you know what I mean? Like, Mick Foley was so big around that time, right? So everyone loved hardcore wrestling because that was like 99, 2000 was the hardcore generation of professional wrestling, like the real big boom of it, so to speak, I believe, for I don't know, my generation. And I'd start saying, I go, who the fuck is the Messiah? Who the fuck is John Zandig? Who is Supreme? Who is Nick Gage? Who is this wife beater? Who is Lobo? Who is Nate Hatred? You know, Jun Kasai, all these guys. I'm like, these guys are nuts. I'm like, how can I see this? And I was like, reading all this information. I was like, oh, you can buy tapes, right? And the internet was there, but you couldn't really buy online. So I was like following up, like reading all the news about CZW and XPW. But I was calling the offices up and I was buying tapes at 17 years old. And I'm like ringing like Sewell, New Jersey at like fucking whatever time of the day. And I'm like, yeah, can I get Cage of Death 1? And like, and it was that, this is probably like 2000, 2001. I'm like, yeah, can I get Cage of Death 1, 2, and 3? Well, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, anything else? I'm like, is this John Zandig? No, brother. And I'm like, it's so fucking, you know what I mean? I'm just being a fucking mark. But like, and I did the same thing with XPW until my parents got the phone bill and were like, what the fuck are you calling in California this time? I'm like, I'm just going to get my death match, bro. But yeah, like, hence why I've got a CZW title in the background then. So, but yeah, that was my start, man. And I bought a lot of tapes and stuff like that through those sort of means. Like, I had pretty much like 30 to 40 VHS tapes. And then when Ring of Honor came in, it was just Chikara came in, PWG and all these, like, I've always been a huge indie, like, appreciation of the indies. So yeah, like that was where mainly my tape trading came in. But yeah, never anything like WCW, WWE, ECW. No, it was more indie shit.
No, fair enough. I like talking about that stuff because it takes me back to a simpler time.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I can talk about so long about that shit. So I'm glad you cut. Like, I'm sorry if I rambled on. That one, so.
That's fine, bro. The late 90s, I remember this so much because obviously Survivor Series 1998 was the first proper show I actually saw. It was on Channel 10 over here on a Saturday night. My dad was out for the night. I was at his place, and then it was on TV. I'd been at some sleepovers with, like, you know, friends, you know, or birthday parties. They'd always have like a tape of a Nitro playing or like a pay-per-view that they hired from Video Easy. But I became a fan because of this show, and I remember wrestling being really, like, I remember the time it was like cool and everyone was wearing shirts all around the place. Yeah. I go into a local fast food outlet and there'll be two guys in front of me wearing Austin 316 or NWO shirts or DX shirts talking about what happened on Raw and Nitro the night before. I wouldn't even butt in. I just listened to what they thought. Because, you know, I'm still a kid and they're like teenagers.
Yeah.
But like anywhere you went, you would find someone wearing a wrestling shirt. It was cool. And the guys, you know, in the WZWA network with me, they're a bit younger. So they came into it when wrestling wasn't as cool anymore. You know, when you got your John Cena is like the WWE champion or whatever. Yeah. And it's starting to get towards that PG era. I guess ruthless aggression for them, but for them, they got picked on in high school for being wrestling fans. Whereas like in primary school, for me, like wrestling was cool as fuck. So
yeah, dude. That's the same thing, man. Like I remember like Survivor Series 98, that was on Channel 10. But like at that stage, we had Foxtel because like my dad had got Foxtel, and that's how we sort of reconnected with wrestling. And I remember, like, I had no idea what pay-per-view, even like PPV, actually meant, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, the Royal Rumble is on. Okay, yeah. Purchase. I'm thinking, oh, yeah, like, I'm not going to ask my dad. He's just going to say no. And then after a while, like, my dad, like, you know, pretty smart on, like, why the fuck is there 2 pay-per-views a month? Because it was WCW and WWE back then. But, like, man, like that was a time where it was like wrestling was so fucking hot and it was so white hot, and you had like that attitude era of professional wrestlers like The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin, Mick Foley, the Undertaker, the NW. You know what I mean? Like you had these cool motherfucking factions that made wrestling cool, and it was almost like it transcended into pop culture as well, to a lot of things, where we saw like Mike Tyson getting involved, we saw Jay Leno getting involved, we saw like Dennis Rodman, what was it, Malone getting involved? What's his name? Karl Malone getting involved. You started seeing other people drawing into the wrestling business, and I think that drew a lot of eyes to it. But like, I think the Austin versus like Tyson standoff, bro, in like '98, where Tyson's like, Austin's like, "Fuck you" to Mike Tyson. And like that moment, bro, like I remember being like a fucking 16-year-old Mark just going, like, like losing my fucking shit. And it's the same thing with like Austin and the bang with the gun and like making McMahon piss himself. Like I legit thought he was going to smoke his ass on national TV, bro. Like, because I'm like a 16-year-old, I'm going, fuck this Vince McMahon motherfucker. Look at him. Smoke his. And I'm like, when they did it, I was like, oh, fuck, man. Like, but even then we're like, oh, this can't, like, really? Like, is this real? Like, like we'll still question it. Like, what? But man, that was a time where it was like, I think socially people were just like I said, it was the era of shock TV and shock radio, and they had to do a lot of things to really shake things up, which is like, you look at 2021 and it's like they couldn't even get it, like they couldn't do half the stuff that they did back then.
Absolutely, man. And like, just for anyone out there who really doesn't understand how big it was, you could go into Kmart, could go into some of the other stores, they would have a whole row of figurines and rings and all of the stuff. Now you go into a Kmart, you might get one little slither of a row that might have a couple of figurines. But back then, that's when I can tell when wrestling is hot, is because if it's in an isolated city like Perth, Western Australia, and it's that big, that in an isolated place like us to have all of that stuff, and for people to say today we're going into another boom period, I'm sorry, but like, it's, if it hasn't reached this far to necessitate having long aisles of figurines and things like that, then I still don't think that it's going to be anywhere near what it was in 98, 99. Do you agree with that, bro?
To a certain extent, I think it is big, but like, I think man, like you said, like the merchandise doesn't really lie, and you go into certain places, and I'm sure there's certain places that have more stock than the others, but like I still think that as far as action figures, I think the wrestling audience in this country is probably more leaning towards adults that aren't really into the action figures, to be honest. That's kind of the way that I see it. Like, I try and get my kids to sit down and watch wrestling. Like, I've got a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 4-month-old, and I'm trying to get my 5-year-old, like my elder son, to want to watch it, so he'll come to a show with me, or like a show that I'm on or working or something like that he can sort of come and go, oh, cool. But like, he sits down for a minute and is like, he's out. Like, it just doesn't. I've tried getting him to sit down and watch Hogan beating the Sheik and all sorts of shit, and he just doesn't have an interest. So maybe it's just like this generations of kids just aren't wrestling fans, which is sad. But or there's not a lot of kids that are fans of it. But I think it's more leaning towards adults for a lot of it now.
Right. So as your time wears on as a fan, getting to, like, let's say your early 20s now or mid 20s, do you start trying, going to like local shows? I'm not sure if there's much going on during that time period over East. My knowledge of Australian wrestling isn't as good as it should be. But, did you start going to any sort of local shows, and was there a point where you eventually got involved?
Yeah, man, there was, like, I was probably like 18 or 19, and I worked in this retail shop, and the lady that I worked with, her husband, like we were talking, and I said, like, yeah, I love wrestling. I want to be a wrestler one day. Like, I want to do this shit. And she's like, oh, my husband's a wrestler. And I'm like, yeah, I thought she meant like Greco-Roman. I'm like, oh, you mean like the Olympic wrestling? And she goes, no, like professional, like WWF. I'm like, oh, cool. She's like, yeah. I'll get you to meet my husband. Like, and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'll talk to him. She comes back the next day and she goes, hey, meet my husband here on Saturday. He'll come pick you up and take you to training.
Oh, wow.
Like, all right, cool. Never met this dude before, right? And like never met like face-to-face, anything like that. So I go there. There's this dude who's like 6 foot, like 3, 120, 130 kilos of just pure muscle, right?
Right.
So I'm looking at this guy going, God damn. I'm like, hey, man. And he's like, hey, what's up? Blah, blah, blah. Introduce each other. And we hop in this car. We drive down and we go to the IWA Training Academy. Now, IWA is the longest running professional wrestling show in Australia. Like they've been around for over 20 years, run by Mark Mercedes, who has wrestled for WCW. He's wrestled over in Germany, trained, Malenko trained him as well. So I went down there and I sort of sat down and I'm like, all right, cool. This is how it sort of like the mechanics of it work. And they're like, all right, so it's going to be like $1,200. And like, you have to pay that up front. And I'm like, I'm 18 years old, dude. I don't have $1,200. So I'm like, all right, yeah, okay, cool. And I'm like, all right, cool. Nothing happened there. And then I went out again to like about a year later and met another guy who was training called Andy Harpus, who is an Australian wrestling legend. And I went out there, I met him. He was a really cool guy. Like, he was an older guy, probably in his like 50s or 60s. And it was like, yeah, like blah, blah, blah. Like, I'll train you. You just need to come out here. And it was like 2.5 hours. Like, it was like a 90-minute drive. And I didn't even have a car at the time. So by the time I sort of got like situated with car and stuff like that, it was just sort of past my opportunity. Which, I mean, like looking back at it, I wish like I probably went like balls to the wall and just went, fuck it. But I think I let a lot of outsider influences as well persuade me out of it as well. Whereas I should have just went, fuck you all. I'm going to fucking do this. And you can all like go suck my fucking hairy white ass, like that's what I should have said, bro. And that's what that I always say. And it's funny because now at 39 years of age, through doing wrestling podcasting, that I get now opportunities to be in the wrestling business. And it's not like to go and be like the guy, like a wrestler going in there and, having that spot, but being able to go there and contribute as a ring announcer, to be able to go and contribute as a commentator, to see, to have an opportunity like that. Whereas like on this level in like independent wrestling or Australian wrestling, you're not going to get those opportunities unless you're an ex-worker that you just basically, you just want to stop or you want to step back from wrestling. So I understand that the opportunities that I've been given are a rarity, and I appreciate them. But still now at 39, I spin out that I'm making my entrance into the world of wrestling in a non-competitive format, but still being able to contribute in a positive way to a show by ring announcing, commentary, or whatever I can do to help that product.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm happy to hear that you're getting those opportunities. I'm still waiting for a phone call myself, but I won't hold my breath. But I think I can contribute. But I guess maybe they don't feel like they need me, which is okay.
But you know what? That's the thing, dude. Like the only thing you need to do is just keep doing what you're doing, and like that's I didn't think anyone would really want someone that I reached out to one promotion and they said, hey, we've kind of got people doing that sort of stuff. And I went, okay, cool. And, that's fine. And then, out of nowhere, I got just approached, just like someone said, hey, look, I've seen what you've been doing. Would you like to do this? Try ring announcing. And I was like, fuck yeah, man. I've never done it before. I'll give it my best shot. And having access to, who I have access to, a lot of ex-professional wrestlers, I asked the questions like, what do I do here? Like, and I just got told, don't put yourself over. get the talent over. And I'm like, I'm a ring announcer, dude. So like, should I not do the whole big like, and now, boom, come into the ring, Mick. You know what I mean? Like, and then I got told, you'll know. And I'm like, all right, that doesn't help. And then like when you're in that moment, you kind of know what you're there to, you know what I mean? Like you kind of sort of assess the situation and see what it is and how you can sort of put little bits and pieces of flair into it. But yeah, it's still, man, like I said, when I'm going and doing that sort of work at shows, I just try not to get in anyone's way or piss anyone off, because you know, you do the right thing. Hi, how you going? And stuff like that. And you ask questions when you need to ask questions. But most of the time I just try and stand back and let the guys do what they need to do before the show, man. Afterwards, it's a different story, you know?
Yeah, that's cool, bro. Okay, so like as time moved along in your life, how did you get into doing, you know, your own show, getting into podcasting and deciding to jump into it?
It was just a weird thing, man. Like I joined like a couple of wrestling belt groups, and because I've always been a fan of the belts, like they're cool things, you know what I mean? They're a part of the product, and I just thought they were a cool keepsake. And then I was like, fuck it, you know what? I'm gonna start one of these Facebook belt groups for here in Australia, and you know, people can do all that sort of shit. Then I was like, you know what? Like I want to do a weekly show in my little group, and you know, started doing that. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe I should try and reach out to wrestlers. And bang, reach out to one. Yeah, I'll do your show, man. Okay, cool. Then another, and then it just sort of started snowballing where it was like, okay, now I'm creating a website. Not a website, a YouTube channel, and directing that to there, having that live element as well, where anything can happen. We're going to go live, baby, live. You're seeing this in real time, real live time. It's something as well which was unique, whereas like a lot of podcasts are, you know, pre-recorded and for very good reasons as well, because like you can go back and edit and chop what you don't need to chop. But like for me, I thought, you know what, like the live thing, it kind of like that live radio type shit, and I like that idea. So you know, I ran with it, and you know, after like I started doing this like in December 2019, just doing interviews. And you know, then I interviewed, I think, Angel Medina from ECW, who you've interviewed, and who was known as the Kingpin Angel as the Baldies, and interviewed him and just hit it off straight away. You know, as like we were just bantering back and forth leading up to the interview. So we had that straight, like almost like that funny sort of like, you fucking, yeah, he's like, you're from Australia, Outback Jack, bro. And he's like doing his gimmick, and I was just like, yeah, cool, laughing it off. And then he said to me, he's like, dude, like, have you ever thought about like, he's like, dude, I really want to do a podcast, man. And I'm like, cool. And this is literally just after I had him on my show, and he's like, yeah, man. He's like, you know, I'm like, do you want to do something scandalous and, you know, like something like, I don't know, like crime and I'm like, dude, what about like wrestling, like, and looking at some of the dark, dirty fucking underbelly shit of professional wrestling, bro. And he's like, yeah, bro, like, yeah, like we can look at like the murders, the deaths, the suicide, the drug overdose, the fucking abuse, yeah. But then like stuff like the, you know, the Montreal screw job, or like the sunny days, the Bret Hart, and you know, like, or everything leading up. I'm probably just focused too on those, but like, you know, all the different shit that's happened in the world of pro wrestling, like we could take on it, investigate it. You know, Angel being an ex-police officer and myself working and having a background in, you know, risk investigation, security management, public safety, we sort of started looking at it from a different scale. So we'd break it down where it's like, okay, yes, we're talking about a wrestling story here, but we're looking at it from a corporate structure. We're looking at it from a legal structure. We're looking at it from a victim's point of view. We're looking at it from the assailants, all these different things where we sort of tackle it. And, you know, and that's how it just sort of, you know, everything else sort of spawned from there, where it's like, you know, partnering with Angel and getting Wrestling with Tragedy to where it's gotten to, and having that as far as the Russo's brand, and then sitting back and looking at what I was doing over here with shooting the shit. And I'm like, okay, there's so much more that we could do here. And it's like, Angel, like, you have so much to say. Why don't you come over here as well? I'll put put your microphone on. I'll hit go live, and you just fucking go.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to call it Killing the Business. And he just went, I love, absolutely, yes. I go, if shit that you see on the, like, I don't give a fuck. And he's like, yep. And that was the straight away. And, we developed his show where, like, it started with me being his producer and me being like the second man with him. But I really wanted that to sort of have that as his standalone show. Whereas like people know us with Wrestling with Tragedy. It's like I didn't want to confuse those two audiences. So it's like Angel having this show, and then we brought in like, Sexton and King Mega, which now that team really have that Killing the Business show running on a really great level. And then obviously incorporating, the Dead Presidents, Boogaloo and Lowrider, who tag team legends, man, from the indies, gone all up and down all over the United States, and very, very well respected tag team with Knights of the Gimmick Table. And then, the last final piece was Alan, bringing in Alan Funk as Get Funked with his show, and just worked with these guys. And now just sort of working with these guys now, where we started having, 4 shows. We've now branched off, and we now have 7 shows from that. So we have shows going 7 days a week, and it's like, we're looking to add more content, more, performers and stuff to it. But we've really created a strong network of guys that have this mindset of, we want to be able to say what we want to say, talk to the people that we want to talk to, not necessarily always have to be controversial or any shit like that, but like not have to be worried about being overly policed. Oh, you got to do. So that was the main thing. So it's like, I'm very much the stress head of the operation, where I'm like, okay, did you hit sponsors? Did you, like, I'm always like that mindset, because like in a business mindset, you still need to think about these sort of things. You still need to be able to give feedback to your guys and deliver a message to them, which is respectful, but saying, hey guys, like, you need to bring it back here, or hey guys, you need to push it for more here, like, and but the thing is as well, like, I expect them to come and tell me when I've done a bad interview and go, hey man, like, you could have done this better, or you could have, like, and that's the collaboration side of things. There's no like me standing at the top of the chain, like the food chain, like cracking down whips or anything like that. These guys, like I said, we are a very tight unit that is being able to work together to everyone grows and just get better at this game.
Yeah, bro. Awesome. Yeah, it's great to hear about how it evolved during, the time that you started it to where you're at now. And I guess my next question for you would be, for you as a podcast doing all this right at the beginning, what would you say would be the tough challenges that you had early on?
Tough challenges early on, I think, would be like the nerves, and also, people think it's a lot easier than what it is. And when you sit down, bro, and you do it, and you understand this as well, like, when you're facing with someone who isn't having a back and forth conversation with you, it makes it hard. And it's like, then you're kind of forced into going against your style of interview, or how you even interview. Like for me, I do a very conversational style. Like I don't necessarily have to go in and say, so I've got 50 questions, I want to hit all these 50. I'll have like points that I want to hit and discuss, but I'll always have a conversation. So when I'm talking, and say, for example, you're telling me a story, I'll ask questions based off that story. So we're back and forth having a conversation like how we're doing here. You know what I mean? Like that is the way that I do it. But sometimes when you get people, it's like, yeah, so, and they're like, yeah. Care to elaborate, sunshine? You know what I mean? Like that's another part that, that we have to deal with. And you must deal with that as well, right?
Of course, I have had that before. Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you let me ask you this? How do you overcome someone who is more reserved and not as forthcoming as information as you'd like?
Generally, when I can see that that's happening, I have to, I think to myself, what can I do to turn them? I always call it turning them. Now, how do I get them to switch on and be, how do I spark that interest from them that's going to get them to actually really connect with me? And so if I haven't made that connection yet, I know at some point I will make that connection. Whether I make them laugh, or I always try to plan a few jokes, which is kind of lame.
No, not at all, man.
But it's good to be funny on the spot as well. But sometimes I will think, okay, I will say this probably at this point to see if I can pop them. And so I've got like little things here and there that I've got planned with my questions to ensure that I can at least spark that, I guess, just the interest from them to get them to connect. I think another thing that I do quite well is like when I introduced you to the show, I'm really full of energy and, I hit all of my lines perfectly most of the time.
Happens, bro, the best of us,
Yeah. And then they, I think they go, okay, this guy's the real deal. Like he knows how to host a podcast and how to make that connection. But still, there have been times where, I interviewed Too Tough Tony a while back, and it was a morning his time, and he asked me how long I wanted to go, and I said about an hour is usually what we do. And he's like, "Oh man, I might only have about half an hour, but we'll see how we go." By the time I got to an hour, he was like, "Damn, man, I was having so much fun, I could keep going." So I could tell he was disinterested at the beginning, because when we first started talking, obviously I'm just going, "Hey man, how are you? Thanks heaps for your time." But then once I do my intro, and then I'm telling him, "You did this on this date in this arena, and you worked with this guy. I know my shit. I've done solid research."
Yeah.
That also can impress them, I suppose.
Then even then, stage, Too Tough Tony, he'd be like, "Whoa," like he's getting pumped up now, like you know what I mean, like you're geeing him. But that's the thing, man. Like that's the whole premise, though. Like when someone's interviewing someone, you want to be able to get them over. Like you know what I mean. Like even they don't need us to get them over, bro, but you get them over anyway. You know what I mean. You put it together. And energy is a big thing as well, dude. Like I'm the same way as you. Like when I come in and do my show, bro, like yo, what's up? It's your boy. Like having that high energy, it's also going to be more captivating to your audience. Because if we turn around and was like, "Hi, my name's Piers, and welcome to Shooting the Shit Uncensored. Tonight we are going," I mean, like fuck off, bro. Like I mean, like all monotone. So you like at the end of the day, it's an entertainment business. So you have to be entertaining. If you're going to do a podcast, you have to have that level of entertainment. You have to have that energy, and you have to bring that energy to get it from your guests. Because if they see that energy from you, then they have to match that energy, bro. Because if they don't, then they're going to come across as just flat. And that's why a lot of guys like, especially wrestlers, man, like that. Gimmicks and characters, bro, like they definitely want to make sure that they shine and they get their points in, and get their points across.
Yeah, and it's like, they've done so many interviews over the years. They've answered the same questions over and over again. I always think of it, how can I broach a subject that comes at it from a different way than they would usually be asked? And one of my favorite things is when someone says to me, "Wow, I've never actually thought of it that way before," or "Wow, I've never actually had that question before," or "had that question to me like that." And I'll get into some of that a little bit later, but I
think you can easily go into that, and you can even ask questions that they've been asked before, but it's the way that you ask them as well. Like, you know what I mean? Like it just like, dude, there's so much that, like you can ask. There's so many different ways that you can skin a cat, right? So there's so many different ways you can ask a question. So I think as long as you're creative with how you ask those questions and engaging, like dude, sometimes you just, like I said, man, it's, when you ask those questions, it's like, for me, it's all about having a good time, bro, and having a good vibe, like, as far as like going into heat and stuff like that, like I kind of like, if I've had guests that want to go down that road, they'll go there, and I'll work with them, bro. I'll bounce off them, but I don't usually go like digging down the rabbit holes for that sort of shit. Where I think a lot of the guests that see my show prior to coming on, they kind of get that vibe from me, and they sort of, okay, cool, this is what we're going to expect from this guy. Is just like friendly, fun loving, and stuff like that. You know, I've had moments where I've had guys turn and start doing like a cold hard shoot, and I just go, all right, cool, let's roll with it. You know what I mean? Like, cool. You know what I mean? Like, that's cool. You know what I mean? But it's always on that respect level. I think that, you know, like having it at that sort of sense. Like I heard a podcast, like, you know, Ian Rotten is, right?
Yes.
All right. So I had a podcast that Ian Rotten did years ago, dude. And it was like a 2-hour podcast, and the interviewer had him on just to fucking smash him, right?
Oh God.
Like just to fucking like he'd ask Ian a question, and then he would just like, as Ian's about to answer it, just start blindsiding him. Oh, wait a second. Bang. And then like Mickey Knuckles comes into the conversation, and she's like starts talking shit. Then Madman Pondo comes in, and then like JC Bailey's dad comes in, and and like it's just like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, Ian Rotten has a reputation in the business or whatever, and you know, some people love him, some people hate him. That's like most people in anything, you know what I mean, in the world. But like I'm sitting there going like, all right, is he a piece of shit? I don't know. I've never met him. I've never had a conversation with him. Who am I to say like what one person says is true or not? But to sort of have someone on your podcast just to like embarrass them and then belittle them,
yeah,
I don't know, man. That takes a lot out of what you should be doing. You know what I mean? Like that's not putting your time towards something that's, you know, positive in any way. Like, what do you get out of that, bro? Like, I was just like, that was fucking skeezy, you know?
that's it. It's about putting them up on a pedestal. And, you know, as we were talking about earlier with, you know, when you do your intro, you know, when I go and watch another podcast, if I know within the first 10 seconds if I'm going to keep watching this, and if this is going to be another one of those shitty podcasts out there, which give, you know, I guess a Mark's podcast a bad reputation, you know, wrestlers might be more weary in future on accepting an invite to go on a show because they might have had bad experiences with people that don't know what they're doing. So like, I know within the first few seconds if I'm going to watch this, if someone's giving me energy, then I'm like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. But if it's someone like, oh, well, welcome to the show, my guest at this time is blah 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 blah, and it's just like, man, like I don't know how, you know, and I'm alluding to certain someone there, but
yeah.
Oh my God. And, you know, well, so you had this match with The Undertaker on Superstars. Would you say that was like your biggest match? Like, what do you think they're going to respond with when you ask a question like that, bro?
Like, dude, I know who you're talking about as well. The fucking heat magnet himself. And like, you know, I don't really think that sort of style of interview, bro, like the Hannibal, you know, like TV style of interview is so early 2000s. You know what I mean? Like, even when he's like making it full screen and like asking the questions, like, dude, it feels skeezy, bro. It's almost like watching like, you know, a cheap porno, bro. Like, you know, it's fucking nasty. and you know what I mean? But like, I don't know, dude. I don't really enjoy that. Like, I enjoy, like I said, dude, I enjoy doing the way I do it, man. Like, just having conversations and having questions thrown in there that are genuine, and they're questions for that moment. Like, I try, and if I go too far into preparing for that moment, then the moment never really comes, if that so to speak. But yeah, like, yeah, I'm the same way, dude. Like, I sit down in the first 30 seconds, I know if I'm going to be enjoying a podcast or not, just by the way that the intro is exactly the same how you said it, bro. It's, you know, like, dude, it's funny, when I first started my first podcast, like the first time I interviewed someone, like my first interview was Maven Bentley from CZW. And the first interview I did, I'm like screaming. I'm like, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Shit Up. It's Piers Up. And I'm like doing all these things and fucking like, and you just see like Maven like,
Fantastic.
And then like the questions are, so Maven, you know what I mean? Yes, little Australian man, what's up? You know what I mean? Like that was to me like that. Like I look back at shit like that and I just cringe because I'm just going, fuck. I'm like, dude, like, yeah, I cringe at a lot of that sort of stuff, man. Or even stuff that I did where I didn't have like a proper microphone and I was doing it off like a fucking iPhone headset and shit like that. Like that sort of like as well. Like if I listen to a podcast, it's like the audio quality and listening to people that are professionals. It's like, okay, you've invested in this. You have a microphone. You have a running off a computer. I'm not looking at you with a moose knuckle hanging out like on your iPhone. Like, you know what I mean? Like sitting back, it's, you know, for me, the audio quality of it, if someone's like, you know, even the visual aspect of it as well, like, you know, if your internet is scratchy or, you know, lagging or your audio sounds like shit, then, you know, I mean, that's another reason where like a lot of people will go, yeah, fuck that. I don't want to fucks with that sort of shit. You know what I mean? Like me personally, I walk away from it. I go, no.
Yeah, no, I remember I was listening to a Kevin Sullivan interview a while back and I couldn't get through it because his audio kept on cutting out. And I was like, I can't do this. And, you know, I look at some of my early stuff and I had a different laptop, an older laptop, and the webcam quality is so shit and my audio is terrible. And once I interviewed Dan the B7 and we never got to release that interview because for whatever reason, the laptop switched from my headset microphone to the laptop's microphone, which was fucked. So like my audio was just so muffled and loud. We ended up not being able to use it. And I got that one for free. And then when I asked him, you know, can I get you back on the show? Because we didn't even end up getting to talk about his WWF career.
Yeah.
And, you know, at that point, he wanted to charge. And I was like, shit, we can't afford it at the moment. But, yeah, some of those things with audio and all that can be stressful, especially when you're interviewing someone and their connection is really bad. And you're like, oh, my God, this could ruin this interview. I'm getting good stuff, but their connection's so bad.
Yeah, but you know what, man? Like, I kind of roll with it if it's theirs, and I'm like, yeah, fuck it. I just roll with it. But you even touched on a thing as well, like, you know, paying someone to do an interview, like that's something that I've always tried to steer away from. And I don't diss anyone who's done it, like paid performers or whoever to do an interview, like that. You are like, there's people who do it for a reason. I always went, you know what, my work is going to speak for itself. Where it's like, you're going to want to be on my show. It's not like anything about paying. And, you know, I've had people go, oh, I charge this. And I just go back and I say, blah, blah, blah. You know, thank you, but this is my standard, blah, blah, blah. This is where I believe, and go from there. And a lot of the time I've had guys go, yeah, all right, cool, I'll do it. No worries. You know what I mean? Like, just because I stand my ground, bro. I stand by my product and I say, look, I believe my show is one of the best out there today in the world. Like, you should want to do it. Like, you know, if you don't want to do it, cool, but like, I don't believe I should pay for it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't believe that, because I think that it's beneficial for both parties. And, you know, that's probably me just being a little bit full of my own shit as well, and being a bit full of myself. But I think you have to be, man. You have to be able to back yourself. And that's something I've always tried to be from the get-go.
Yeah, I get you, bro. Like, you know, early on we did pay a few people. There was one situation where I paid someone and they no-showed me 3 times. Managed to get my money back because I complained to PayPal. But, you know, I have had those conversations with people where they well, I charge this much, and then I tell them, well, you know, if you really would like to be connected with some of your Australian fans, you know, the invitation's still there, but like we can't afford to pay everybody to come on the show.
Bro.
Yeah,
100%, man. And I'm sure like some guys do it just because, and I get why they ask as well. Like, and I think like a lot of the time it's either they just get so many like, they get asked so many times, it's like their way of deterring it, or they just need the money and that's their way of, you know, having a bit extra every month or every couple of months. So I get why they do it, but, you know, like I said, it's, you know, if you go back respectfully and say, this is why I don't do it, they either will go, all right, cool, and move on, or they'll do it. So,
yeah. Toughest situation you have faced in an interview. We've talked about tough challenges, but is there a particular interview, you don't have to name any names, where you felt like this isn't going well?
I think I've been really lucky and fortunate to have had some pretty amazing people on. The only one I would probably say where I thought that was when, one wrestler, and at the time I was streaming my show in some of the belt groups on Facebook, and I had a different setup, and I had like a couple of belts hanging behind me, and this wrestler goes, "I never understood why like grown-ass men like yourself would buy those cheap-ass wrestling belts." And I'm just like, oh, fucking hell. Like, you serious, dude? He's like, yeah, like, who'd you ever beat for those cheap eBay belts? I'm like, all right, first of all, motherfucker, they're not cheap, right? And I'm like thinking that to myself, and I'm like, all right, cool. And this wrestler, like I spoke to beforehand, before we went live, and I'm like, oh, man, like, I really like your work and etc. Blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm not really wrestling too much now. I'm delivering pizzas for a living. And I remembered that line, and then like he kept on going about it. He goes, yeah, these, they must be mentally not like just really attacking my audience at this stage.
Yeah.
So I just went, well, wrestling fans like to collect things, man, like autographs, photos, 8x10s, t-shirts, wrestling belts, kind of like how you like to collect tips for delivering pizza at night, right? And like I said it, and I just went, oh, fuck, I should have said but in the same sense, like I felt like I'm one of those people, man. Like if I feel like you're attacking, and I feel like he was going a little bit too aggressive, and I just checked him, bro. It wasn't like I just like, you know what I mean? I just checked it like that, because like it wasn't said in a malice way, it wasn't said in a vicious way, but it was just like, well, more of like a tongue in cheek. And when I went back and watched it, I went, okay, cool. It comes across like a little bit of a tongue in cheek than more of like me being a dick. Yeah. But like him, like he was, I don't know, maybe that person was intoxicated. Like I kind of think they were a little bit inebriated at the time. But still, like I said, I felt like I was backed in a corner that I needed to defend the wrestling fans.
Absolutely, man. I mean, for me, I had someone that I was interviewing, and I had to wait this was planned in a month in advance, right? I don't care. It was Big Vito, right? Yeah. And I had done I'd helped out him and his wife with a few things. She and I used to talk every now and then, and she posted on her Facebook once about, the WWE Network, they cut out Vito singing Frank Sinatra on Thunder on this episode. And I've got like every original airing of WCW on a hard drive. So I got that episode, cut that bit out, sent it to her in an email. So then they got to finally watch it. And then the next thing was, I think Vito was on about 10 episodes of TNA's weekly pay-per-views at one stage.
Yeah.
And they had no access to see it. But, after all these years, he wanted to look back at what he'd done there. So again, I had the first 100 pay-per-views from TNA's weekly pay-per-views on a hard drive, got those 10, emailed them, maxed out my Google Drive and my Dropbox just to try and get it to them. It took a while, but I managed to get there. So I've done these two nice things, and then I started this podcast. And I asked if I could have him on the show. And because he was a security guard at a retirement home where he would do the graveyard shift, it was hard for him to be able to do a morning, which was fine. So we kind of figured out, okay, well, if we can do it midday, that will be whatever it was like 2 a.m. for me. But I was okay with that, just to get this one in the can, because I felt like, man, there's no Big Vito shoot interviews out there with RF Video. There's nothing out there. Maybe I can get that ultimate interview with him to talk about all the ins and outs of his career. Anyway, try and get to a long story short here. Yeah. I had to wait like a month for this interview. I'm sitting there. It's, really early in the morning. No one joins the call. I send messages. No one's reading any messages. No one's online. I think by about 4 a.m. I just said, I'm going to bed now. hope everything's okay. I just assumed like maybe there's an emergency. But they had slept in, which is okay. That's fine.
Yeah, that happens.
That happens. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Because, you know, I've had people no show plenty of times. So we set it up again. And this time it was like nearly 2 months away that we picked a certain date. Finally, he's there, start the interview. He just was completely disinterested the whole time. He was giving me real blanket answers. No, he wasn't branching into real stories. And, you know, what was it like when you first met Johnny the Bull? You know, what were your first impressions of him? It's just like everything was great. Everyone was cool. Never had a problem with everyone, you know, but no anecdotes, no stories. And I couldn't, as we were talking about before, I couldn't turn him. It was the only person I could not get to connect with me. And
why do you think that was?
I just feel I spoke to some people that are closer with him about that after I'd interviewed them, and they said he probably just felt like, because you just submarked, that this was kind of like a waste of his time, and you know that's probably what it might have been. But the thing that bugged me the most was we got like an hour in, we had just finished up talking about WCW, and he gets a phone call. And he's on the phone for like 7 seconds. It's not very long. Hangs up the phone and says, sorry, I have to go. There's a family emergency. And I'm panicking. I'm like, oh, shit. Well, how do you want to finish this off, bro? Because, like, I've still got a whole heap of questions, but, like, if it's an emergency, you know. He's like, oh, let's just, you know, just wrap it up. And so I wrapped it up, said some nice things. He gave me some compliments. You have a really nice show here and all that. And I was like, felt like he didn't really find it to be a very nice show.
Yeah.
And then later on, I messaged his wife just asking, you know, hey, is everything okay? And she said, oh, yeah, his niece fell over and hit her head. So we took her for ice cream. And I was like, so, like, she hit her head. She'd have to go to hospital. So it was an emergency. I didn't say this, but I was thinking, and I'm like, so, like, I only probably had about maybe 40 minutes left of questions to talk about TNA and WWE and how he's doing today. And it got cut off at that point to take her for ice cream. To me, it just didn't compute why it was called a family emergency and why it had to be cut short. If you find out she's okay, we'll take her for ice cream, but I better hop back on to finish off this interview for this guy. That was what was running through my head. Anyway, I had tried to follow up with her again and say, look, it's only like 30, 40 minutes more I need, because I can't really release this interview with the way it is now, because it just ends so abruptly. And she was like, oh yeah, sorry, he's just too busy right now to be doing it. And I was just like, man, I fucking did all this nice stuff for you guys, and you can't even give me that full interview. So I don't know. I just wanted to see what you thought of that situation, you know, because that was my toughest one that I've been through.
Dude, that's a hard one, man. Like, because at the end of the day, like, you kind of have to, like, if people aren't into it, man, they're not into it, you know, and you just got to sort of realize for what it is. And, you know, I think one of the things that I do as well is, like, I don't try and drag my interview out for a certain amount of time. You know what I mean? Like, if I get to 45 minutes with doing an interview with someone and I feel like we've gotten as much as we can get in the interview, I'll wrap it up. Like, I won't try and draw it out for 2 hours or an hour. Like, you know what I mean? Well, we could be having a good conversation. Okay, no worries. I see it starting to wind up. And it's like when you have a conversation with someone that you see in the street that, you know, like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, no, you're going to stay here for another 25 minutes. So we hit that hour mark. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, that's just the way I've done it. It's like some conversations I have go for like an hour and 40 minutes. Some conversations I have go for 45 minutes. It's just how it flows. But I think as well, like, to have that happen, like, that's unfortunate, man. Like, because it's like you invest a certain amount of time to already get that part down, and then it's like you can't really use it. So I can see how it'd be frustrating. But, like, Big Vito, man, he's an interesting cat, dude. Like, he's got stories, man. He's a funny dude. I had him on my show, and like, you know, he definitely was able to get some good stories from him. But like I said, man, it just depends. You could have got him on a day where he just wasn't feeling himself, bro. Like that's something you have to take into consideration as well. It's like, we're all human, bro. We all have days where we have off days. We all have days where we're like short with certain people, whether it be in the shop or something like that. And then that can be a flow-on effect to other people. So he could have been then short with you. Then you've gone, fuck this. And then you've gone and gotten short with your wife or like someone else. And they've gone, what the fuck's wrong with fucking Karlif? What the, you know what I mean? And then you go, you know what I mean? It's just like, as this ongoing cycle, bro. So like, you just look at it like it can be sometimes some people have just had a shitty day and you've just copped that end of it, you know what I mean, from them. And that's just part of it, you know. It goes with what we do as podcasters, man, is, you know, sometimes you got to take the good with the bad. Like, you know, I'm sure I've seen you have amazing interviews with some people, dude. I've had amazing interviews with some people. I've had some that I've gone, not my best. And I'm sure you've had the same thing. And it's not that it's not my best because of the person or because of me. It can be sometimes, hey man, sometimes two people just don't connect on a conversational level, bro. And that's okay. You can still have like a somewhat civil conversation and interview with someone, but you know, the ones where like you really connect with someone and you have that good back and forth and that good banter, man, like, you know, you can't get that every single time, you know, which is kind of sucks.
Yeah, I get you, because like I was on your channel earlier and I saw that you'd interviewed him and I clicked on it and I skipped into like the middle and he was like smiling and telling a story, I think, about Angel. And I was like, well, he didn't smile when he talked to me.
Hey man, it's the beard, brother. It gets them all every time.
Anyway, I just wanted to tell you that story. You know, I haven't got anything against him or anything like that. I just kind of felt a bit sour about it because I'd done all of this nice stuff and I couldn't even get like a nice fun interview with him. I thought, me being Italian as well, that we'd really click, but
that's what you should have sent him, man. Send him some.
I did. I said it's us two paisans here talking, and I was really trying to sell it on him.
Yeah. Oh man, like there's a lot you can get into it, but man, I'd try and reach out to him again, dude. You know, give him another shot and see what you can do, bro.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. All right. Well, I'll keep moving forward here with my questions here, bro.
It's all good, bro.
We kind of alluded to it earlier, shitty podcasts and all that. Do you feel like, because there've been people that have been like messaging me or whatever, hey man, I want to start my own podcast. Yeah. What do I do? And I kind of feel like if you need to ask me that, then maybe you shouldn't do it, because do you know what I mean? Like, there's so many Mark podcasts out there that the market is completely flooded. And, you know, you see some of these bad ones out there. I remember there was this one I saw he was like a teenager. And he went live on Twitter with his interview with Doug Basham. And it was just this kid sitting on a couch and Doug wasn't there yet because he was stuck in traffic. And I was like, well, I'm not watching this, dude. Like, I'm not watching you just sit there whilst you're waiting for him to get home.
Yeah, like, dude, it's it's like I get a few messages each, like, you know, here and there, and I'm always happy to sort of tell people, but like one thing I've noticed is like I had people that would like see like, oh, like I'm gonna have like TJ Perkins on my show, or I'm having Leo Rush. And it's like people who have a podcast but aren't like at that level, so to speak, where I don't want to sound like a dickhead, but like they'd say, give me some advice. How do I get wrestlers to be on my show? Well, dude, like just send out an email. Just send out an email. Just ask them. Yeah. Well, how do I get John Cena? Well, dude, like be like realistic, man. John Cena's probably not going to do your podcast, dude. John Cena's probably not going to do anyone's podcast, to be honest. But like, dude, like what you need to do is like, you need to, like, if that's what you want to do, you need to get your name out there, dude. And it's like these same people would then email, like sit there and go, oh, you got TJ Perkins. And I'm just pulling that name out. I want to get TJ Perkins. Great. Reach out to him. You know what I mean? Like, because it's like their way of saying, hey, I want you to fucking ask. Like, I've had people message me go, hey, will you get people to do my podcast? No. Why not? Because I go to a lot of work to get people to do my podcast. Why would I do that for you? Like, what, You know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing. Like, I think there's a lot of people there, and I think that it's not just in podcasting, but just like in life in general, they want things and they want to achieve, but they don't want to put in the work. You know, like, dude, like I see the work that you put in and that you grind, right? And like, I'm the same way, dude. I put in work and I grind, and I do everything that I need to do. I'll sit there and send 100 emails or DMs or whatever it is that I need to do to be able to put on to get whoever I want to get on. And it's like, it comes down to like, how much determination, how bad do you want it? Like, do you, oh yeah, I want to be a podcaster, or do you know I'm going to be a fucking podcaster. I'm going to go out and I'm going to do the best show that I can. I'm going to improve, get better and better. I'm going to learn how to do these things, what a better mic is, what a better setup is, what a better look, you know. If you have that dedication to it, you know, it's not just like being a mark, having a wrestler on and being able to mark out for 45 minutes to an hour. Have, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's a main thing. Whereas like, I think a lot of like wrestling fans that do is like, yeah, like, oh, I get to talk to a wrestler for an hour. Okay, great. But if you don't have something like, do you want to sit there and have like a meaningful conversation with someone and you want to like, you know what I mean? Like, have a good conversation, or you just want to sit there and go, yeah, man, I remember in like 2003, when you came out and then like you choke slam and then went, yeah, that's what happened, bro. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, man, I did that too. Yeah. Okay, bro. You know what I mean, bro? Like, I'd rather have a conversation and like you'd ask certain things in depth about it. But there's so many people, like I've had people go, hey man, can you watch my show? Give me advice. And yeah, I'll give them advice. Yeah, but. And I'm like, yeah, but what, man? Oh, but yeah, what you're saying there, but you asked me for advice. I'm just giving it to you. Not after an argument, bro.
It becomes an argument, right?
Yeah, dude, I've had that happen a couple of times where now, like, you know what I mean? Like, unless you're part of my close-knit circle, bro, or someone that I feel like I can be real with, I'll give you honest feedback, man. Like, you know, and that's the thing where it's like, now being in the role that I'm at with MWA, I have to be able to go and give like constructive feedback to people. But again, like, these are guys that are professional wrestlers, man, that have been around, and, you know, like, I'm talking, you know, it's in their world as well as mine, but like, how I go and give them that feedback. Hey, maybe try this, or what about if we did this with your show? And it's giving them like little bits of feedback without sort of being, you know what I mean? Like, you can give feedback in a nice way and you can give feedback in a dickhead way. And like, there's times where you need to give it where it's more, hey, I need you to hit this and this point when you start your show. Cool. That's the sort of extent it is. But as far as their product, like, I'll give them things. So, hey, why don't you try this? As a saying, hey, you should do this, because as well, you have to be able to tell someone who might not feel comfortable or not see your vision of how that should be done. So you have to let them do their vision. We're going, hey, what about if you try this, and like give suggestion. And that's the same way that I work with everyone else. Like, Angel will go, hey man, I saw when you did this interview, you said this. What about if you word it this way? Okay, man. Yeah, cool. I get that. That makes a lot of sense. Or same thing with Kiwi, or one of my producers might go, hey, Piers, I noticed this about your show. What if you just alter it a little bit here, or do something, you know what I mean? And then my thing starts thinking, and it's like, all right, cool. So you start that process, and that's where it comes down to, is like giving constructive feedback. But some people, man, they just want everything handed to them. As I said before, I've had people ask me, yeah, blah, blah, blah. I'll give people advice. Where do I start? Okay, go do this, blah, 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 blah. I'm happy to give people advice. But when the people turn around and expect me to give them the shirt off my back, bro, or like the food off my table type of shit, come on. Like, dude, I've had people I don't even know hit me up like that, bro. And I'm like, motherfucker, really? Like, what? You know, that to me is like one of those things, dude. Like,
it was only like a month ago, I messaged you. It's like, hey, man, I'd really like to get the Messiah on my show. I don't know how to find him. I know you've interviewed him. And he said, his name on Facebook is this. I'm like, oh, well, that's why I didn't find him, because I was typing in William instead of Billy. Okay, cool. I found him. I didn't say, hey, man, can you contact him for me to get him on my show? you gave me a tip, and then I've already interviewed him, and it's going to be up in the next few weeks.
And that's the thing. Like, I knew he would be the sort of guy that is cool to do these interviews. You know what I mean? So that's why, like, you know what I mean? If you said, hey man, I'm really interested in whoever, and I knew they weren't keen on, you know what I mean, that they did it as a favor to me or something, I'd be like, hey man, like, you can reach out to them, bro, but like, I'll tell you straight without like, and that's not being a dick. That's just me saying, hey man, look, they're probably going to come back and give you a no. Just, you know what I mean? Don't get too disheartened, because that shit happens, man. Like I said, some people, I've seen people go do interviews that have said no to me before, and they've gone and done interviews on someone with platforms that may be smaller than my platform. But I go, okay, cool. Like, I don't know the sub context behind that. They may have been friends. Their grandmothers may go to the same bake sale every Sunday, or you know, or anything along those lines. So you have to kind of like take certain things with a grain of salt in this game.
Absolutely, man. Who is one guy or girl? I guess the saying is, who is your white whale? Like, what's like the one person that you wish you could get on the show?
Ooh. I don't know, man, because there's so many, bro. Like, I'm a huge indie mark as well, bro. So like, I shouldn't say mark, but I'm a huge indie supporter. So I don't know, dude. Like, Jericho, Foley, you know, indies would be like Nick Gage, like, fuck, man, it's hard. Like, Australian wrestler Madison Eagles, dude, yeah, like the list is so long, man. What about you? Who's your white whale?
You see, when you say like names like Jericho, Mick Foley, to me, for whatever reason, I don't feel as interested in like a bigger name like a Steve Austin, even though it would be amazing, right? But it's because they've done every interview under the sun. What else can be asked?
But I just feel Jericho would be like the coolest motherfucker.
Oh,
like, dude,
he would be fun.
Jericho's like the Dave Grohl of professional wrestling. He's been cool for 30 years, bro.
Yeah.
He would be cool.
He would be. But like, that's like, for me, like, I'm really interested in some of those like names you don't get to hear interviews with, because there's people out there that I want to know their story, but I can't find an interview with them. Like, I interviewed Bob Artiste, who's, you know, one of the best ring announcers that I've ever heard. And I wanted to know his story because he was there from Tri-State through Eastern, through Extreme Championship Wrestling. And I got to do that. And that was really awesome. And he loved me so much that he sent me an ice hockey jersey.
No shit.
Yeah. But for me, like someone like Jerry Flynn, you haven't heard from that guy since he retired in 2000. You know, I know where he works. I've actually sent an email to his job, got no reply. I was just like, man, I know he works there because on the website you can see pictures of him. You know, they've got the staff list there, and he's there. Yeah. That's just one guy. Like, you know, I can go through so many, but you know, like Kenny Chaos or Robbie Rage from High Voltage. You know, people that you haven't heard about or know anything about since they retired 20 years ago. Those are the ones that I really want. The ones that like Blitzkrieg from WCW. No interviews with him anywhere. I know where he works. I sent an email, no response. It's okay. I had to give it a try, right?
Dude, that's the commitment, man. That's like going after like the unheard of the wrestling world, man. And I think that's a pretty cool way of going about it. And you know, like you're looking back at the guys like the throwback sort of who you want to try and get. And, you know, you look at guys like even like, just trying to think who else like of that generation, like maybe even like Brooklyn, I can't even talk, Brooklyn Brawler, who's a guy that you don't really see out there of. And, you know, he'd be a cool guy. You know, like just you look at some of the names, it's like, fuck.
I do deep research trying to track these people down that are just completely off the grid. Like, I found the Gambler's Son. He has a Twitter account.
Jesus, man, that's fucking heavy duty, bro.
And I'm trying, but like he said that his dad's really difficult to get to do anything. when it comes to interviews and all that. So I've left it for a while. I'll try again. I just don't want to like annoy him. But like again, it's just like one of those rare people. Yet no one knows what's happened to him in the last 20 years. I got to try and get him. So like those are the names that for me, that's like the most important ones, just to get that story out there.
Hell yeah, bro. Fuck, man. Like there's so many of like you look at so many talents as well. Like I love when you actually get to have an interview with someone that you may have watched when you were younger, and like they end up being the coolest motherfucker ever. And like that to me is like, all right, that's like that hits it good. But for me as well, like when I do an interview, I try not like, I don't know, dude, like I always try not to be too overly of a fanboy.
Yeah.
Like to mark out, because I think that, you know, for me, I've always wanted to be, you know, looked at as a respectable podcaster. And that was just always my thing. And, you know, as I learn more about the workings of the business and wording of things, how you talk with wrestlers, and, you know, even the handshake, you know what I mean? Like, those sort of things, man, are things that like I've tried to really instill in how I present myself to professional wrestlers. Like even when I'm interviewing them, you know, I just had Enzo on, bro. And it's like, you know, I didn't want to come across as a mark, and I never try and do. Like even you know, I've had Ken Shamrock on, and, you know, I made him pop at Budgie Smuggler. You know what I mean? Like that to me was more of a thing that I popped at, was like getting Ken Shamrock to lose his shit. But as far as like, you know, seeing some of these like people that do interviews and they have like these little fan out moments and shit, like, you got to know your place. Like if you're just doing it for fun and you don't really want to be like a podcaster, but even then, bro, like if you're just doing it for fun and you get like a fucking like a Bray Wyatt, for example, and you're like, oh my, yeah, you know what I mean? Like you'd be like, how the fuck did this guy get, you know what I mean? But even then, like if you're just doing it for fun, all right, cool. But like when you're on the level of like what we're trying to do, and be respected in this industry, you have to present yourself in a respectable manner and be taken seriously. And, you know, you can be knowledgeable, but you don't necessarily have to be like completely mark out fanboy over certain things. And you know, you like I said, you can still be a fan of the product, you can still be a fan of certain things, but like it's just little ways of how you present yourself, I think, are important if you want to be taken seriously.
Yeah, definitely, bro. We're getting right to the tail end here, bro. Proudest moment or proudest moments you've had during your time podcasting? Is there anything that stands out?
Starting to work with Russo's brand, with Wrestling with Tragedy, that was a big thing. You know, Vince is one guy who gets a lot of, like, bro, people throw a lot of shade at that man every single day. And it's like, you don't understand how what you saw on television and what the stories that you hear about people in a business that he was a part of 20 something years ago is like, Vince is one of the nicest guys in the world that wants to help people. You know, I have a lot of respect for Vince. He's given me opportunities to go out to a massive platform that I'm forever grateful. You know, he's given me opportunities with MWA and being part of that as well with him, and to get that, you know, those opportunities. And I'd say those are my most shining moments, and seeing the people around me succeed, bro. Seeing Angel succeed as a podcaster, and seeing Alan having his show, and the Dead Presidents, Boogaloo and Lowrider, and seeing people like Sexton and Charles and King Mega and, you know, Travis and Brad, these guys that are coming in and contributing on all these different sort of levels. That makes me proud. Seeing them succeed when they've done something really good that they're proud of, that's a proud moment of mine, because it's almost like, fuck, man, these people are so passionate about this thing that we've been able to build. And it's a team mentality. So when I see these guys succeed and do like a great show or have a great opportunity come up, I get excited for them about that. And you know, my proudest moment is being able to be associated with these sort of guys and be associated with a team that is so strong and so dedicated to what we're doing and building this community, which is worldwide, and having opportunities that we get from people that, you know, it just kind of surprises you, man. Like it's, you know, those sort of things, and being told and given feedback from people that you respect, hey, you're good at what you do. Those are things, you know, those are things that I can sort of sit back and go, cool, man. Like I can be, you know what I mean? Like these people are saying I'm the shit. They don't have to. They can be brutally honest with me, and to get that feedback, those are proud moments, man. Like when, you know, those are honestly the proud moments, you know. I'd have to say, even sorry to sort of harp on, but you know, cool. Like I got told like a while ago, there was this young guy who had leukemia. He's an Australian wrestling fan, and he was on Instagram Live, and I saw him at a show, and he's like, hey man, can I get a photo with you? And he always supports my show and loves Aussie wrestling. And he did an Instagram Live like a couple of weeks ago, and he sent me an invitation. He's like, please join my Instagram Live. I'm like, yeah, fuck it, whatever. And you know, I went live and vibed with him for a bit. And he was like, man, you're the best podcaster in the world, dude. You're my favorite YouTuber. I'm like, that's great. Thanks, man. And he goes, dude, like when I was like on life support, the nurses would ask me, what do you want? Like, what can we do for you to make you think? And he's like, can you put YouTube on and put on Shooting the Shit Uncensored? Like, I want to see Piers do his thing. And it's like, dude, this guy said to me, man, he goes, you saved my life, bro. And I'm like, dude, no. I didn't save your life, bro. You're a fighter. You know what I mean? Like me talking shit to wrestlers, bro. No, dude, you saved your life because you have some fucking balls on you and you're a fucking go. And he told me, he goes, man, I asked the nurses to reach out to you to come and visit me in hospital, but like you didn't come. So I thought you were just busy. I'm like, dude, no one reached out to me. And I'm like, no, I said, dude, if I did, I would have come 100%. And, you know, like that to me, like hearing stuff like that when people like in their darkest hour and they saw comfort in something that I've done and in a conversation that I've had with another person, and someone is able to find some sort of comfort in a dark time in their life or when they're going through something major, and that was able to help them disconnect from that. Dude, that to me was like the first time anyone had said something to me like that. And that was just like, dude, I was almost in tears. Like, dude, that was one of the saddest things. Not saddest, but just one of the things, though, right? Like just one of those things. I was just in tears. Like I was blown away.
Wow.
You know? And to have that, dude, like you have those moments, I think, as a podcaster or even of anything in the entertainment world where you're like, should I really be doing this anymore? Like, what, like, oh, you know, the numbers weren't really there for this one, or that, you know, like I feel like I was a bit flat or whatever. And then you hear something like that, and that just fucking motivates you tenfold, because you're like, bro, I'm gonna fucking keep like knock it out of the fucking park. Or I'm gonna, hell yeah, man. No, like, and as podcasters, you have those moments, bro. You have the, oh fuck, like those little lulls and shit. But like after hearing that, man, I was just like, let's go, baby. Let's take this to another level. And that was just my mentality from it, bro. Like just hearing that was like tugged on the heartstrings, bro, you know. But what about you? What's been one of your proudest moments?
I guess when I'm able to make a wrestler cry. Because I said something that really made them feel good about themselves. When I had Frankie Lancaster, Lancaster.
Yeah.
You know, journeyman, you know, had done it for years, was kind of unappreciated, but also appreciated by people that like knew his work and knew how good he was. You know, he looks like, you know, Bob Holly and Hulk Hogan put together, but he was chiseled out of stone. I remember seeing him on Saturday night, and I said, like, he looked like a superhero.
Yeah.
And he said that was the greatest compliment he ever had in the business. And he considers himself to only have three real friends in the business, but considers me to now be the fourth one. And he was in tears on the show, saying that was the greatest compliment I've ever had. I want to thank you so much for saying that, because Mean Mike from Disorderly Conduct, he passed on because I said it to him, and he passed on what I said to Frankie before I interviewed him. And yeah, and then Frankie proceeded to want to like spend 10, 15 minutes just talking about me, asking about me, saying, "You're such a wrestling historian. I can't believe at your age that you know all the things that you know." And so like that for me was probably one of the proudest moments, was to make somebody feel really good about themselves that might have kind of felt like, he's at this stage of his career, people aren't talking about him anymore because, and he's still getting up at 3 a.m, going to the gym and in incredible shape for his age. So for him to have somebody all the way over here in Perth, Western Australia, recognize the great stuff he did and the great work he put in, I think that meant a lot to him. So for me, that got me right here to see that I could reduce a very tough man that's been through a lot to tears.
Hell yeah, man. That's crazy. Yeah. And the fact you didn't even say it to him, bro, it just got back to it. You know what I mean? Like that's even more outrageous, dude. Like it comes down to the fact of, like just little things, man, of what you can say to someone to really put someone in perspective, dude, and to really have that moment of like, you don't know how like far a nice word can go with some people, man. You know what I mean? Like it comes down to like, you can see someone who's just like, fuck life, fuck this, I'm just going to go kill myself. Hey man, that's a nice shirt you have on today. You have a great day. Or just, you know what I mean? Hey buddy, hope you're having a good, you know what I mean? Stuff like that, bro, can change the course of someone's outcome for their life, for their day. And it's just a small little gesture that I think us as a society could very well easily do. Like I remember being as a kid, bro, like you'd walk past someone, hey, how are you today, mate? People you didn't even know. And like, then like as I got older, I'm like, fuck, man, people don't do that shit anymore, man. Like you go for a walk down the street, hey, how you doing? Yeah, good, buddy. Yourself? Yeah, sweet. And I try and do that now. Like if someone's like looking in my direction, I just go, what's up, man? Like, moving right along, so.
I know what you mean. You're walking down the road, you walk past a little old lady and say, good afternoon. That might make her feel good that someone, said
yeah,
hello.
But bro, I'm a bald-headed man with a fucking long beard covered in tattoos, so she gets scared. She's like, this dude's gonna fucking bite my head off, or fucking, oh shit, get away from me.
Excellent, bro, excellent. But yeah, I always end my shows on really building them up and always letting them know, hey, if you could reach this far, the most isolated city in the world, Perth, Western Australia, and have someone here appreciate you, then you've done your job. And I think that always really hits home for them that they could reach this far. So that's something that I say that at the end of every episode, because I think that's an important thing for them to know. And, like when I interviewed Wildcat Chris Harris, he had a lot of ups and downs in his career, Braden Walker and all that. And I went on this rant, sticking up for him kind of thing, because I've seen the comments that these Twitter accounts that have a random name to it and a random picture, and they're just hiding behind their little account where they disparage people. And like by the end of that interview, I can tell you this guy was on cloud 9. He was like ready to get on with his day. Like he might have thought certain ways about his career, but then to have somebody put it into a different perspective for him might have made him now feel a little bit differently about his career. You know what I mean?
100%, dude. Have you had any trolls online, like from Twitter and shit, from what you've been doing?
I've had some comments on YouTube videos which have just been stupid and like made no sense. Like me and Jack, we interviewed PG-13. So Jamie Dundee was on the show, and Jamie was smoking a joint in his man cave whilst the interview was going on. And Jack was talking about having a bit of weed as well. And someone commented saying, oh, like that is so unprofessional. Like imagine you had the Undertaker on and you're telling him that you're going to be smoking some weed. He'd be leaving the interview immediately. And it's like, but we didn't have the Undertaker on. We had Jamie fucking Dundee who was smoking a joint. It made sense at the time. Like, so, it's just stupid shit like that,
Oh, dude.
But thus far, I've been pretty lucky. How about you?
I had one troll not too long ago, man. Like we're lucky to have like our audience is pretty supportive of us, our supporters and our audience and that. But I had one on Twitter who sent me a DM on Twitter saying, what is like, you suck, your podcast sucks, you suck as an interviewer. Do your kids a favor and go and kill yourself.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And like, because like my profile picture has me and my kids in it and my wife and shit, you know, and like, I'm like, fuck, man, that's some pretty cold shit. And I'm like, fuck, I'm not going to reply. Then I was like, fuck it. I'm replying. And I just replied back, I have no idea who you are or who this is. Yet you know everything about me. And I said, yeah, you know who I am and you watch what I do, but you don't like me. Bitch, that makes you a fan. Stay in your fucking lane. Don't try and come at people that are doing something that you're not capable of doing or you don't have the courage to do. Don't. And like me and this person went back and forth, and at the end of it, I left it as like, now's when you fucking apologize, and you should probably promise me that you're never going to send someone a message that you don't know like this ever again, because you look like a fucking moron. And the person apologized, and that was it. You know what I mean? Like, but at the end of the day, dude, like you know what I mean? That's one out of 8, like nearly 2 years of doing it. But like, even then I was telling people, they're like, dude, don't get sucked into that shit. I'm like, fuck. Like it irritated me. I'm like, dude, you're really going to tell like a father to go and like kill himself like as a favor to his kids? Like, what the fuck?
Extreme. So extreme.
Fucking like idiots.
But I know what you mean, dude. Like,
guys,
I had an argument with someone on Twitter. You know, I've got to stop doing that. But like, he was an AEW fan, and I'd said something that I didn't like on the show or whatever. Yeah. And the way he responded to me was so over the top and rude. And I just fired right back, just laying the law down to him about how, you know, we're having a discussion here, why go down that road? And he ended up apologizing to me, saying yes.
See, that's why I don't fucks with the comment sections on Twitter and fucking Facebook, bro. Like, especially for fan posts and shit, because like as soon as like I say exactly what I'm thinking, and like, dude, when your mentor is someone like Bin Hameen, bro, you know what I mean? You're not gonna like, dude, like I sit there and like I just don't fuck with certain conversation pieces, man. Like I've said things on like my NXT roundup show where I'm going, this is clearly developmental. Like this is the reason why. What the fuck would you know? It's the third brand. No, it's not. And why isn't it not? Is Adam Cole getting paid the same amount of money as AJ Styles?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Is you know, Velvet? I don't know who else is on NXT. Is Kyle O'Reilly getting paid the same amount of money as I don't know who, like someone, I don't know, like Rusev, for example? No, he's not, because he's in developmental. He's not up here. Yeah, and that's the way you can really manage. Like, you look at it like that. Okay, cool. They have a more creativeness down here, but this is the big league where they're making the big money. Like, let's be honest. And like, I have fans that like viewers that get the shits when I say stuff like that, but wrestling's subjective, man. I give my opinion, and you know, I don't shit on products and I don't shit on workers, but I do give a perspective of how I view things.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, I don't think that the Lucha Brothers versus the Young Bucks is the greatest cage match of all time. Dave Meltzer does. That's okay. It's fine if he wants to believe that.
Well,
let's not get on a Dave Meltzer rant.
Bro, come on. You almost got me going on a fucking Hannibal rant, bro. Don't get me on Meltzer.
Oh my God, Dave Meltzer. I don't know if you've seen anything else on our channel, but we we do a lot of video game playthroughs as well on our channel, and one of our series that we have is on Fire Pro, and there's two guys and another two guys. They have their own brands, and then they edit together their own show with their own storylines on Fire Pro Wrestling. And Dave Meltzer is a character on there, and he's the manager for one of the Fire Pro characters. the Hollywood hunk Jack Howard. Anyway, we have promos that they do, but because me and another guy DJ are very good at doing impressions, I always end up doing the Dave Meltzer. You know, I'd have to give this match like 3.5 stars. I mean, you know, it was quite good. It would have been better though if like Kenny Omega was in the match, or like the Young Bucks or something like that, or if it was in like Japan, it would definitely be more stars. So that's kind of where I feel like I get my angst of Dave Meltzer out by taking the piss out of him every week. So
dude, like, fuck, Uncle Dave.
Have you seen his room?
Yeah, dude.
What
like,
the fuck?
Dave Meltzer, like, he's not even credible at this stage anymore, bro. And the fact that he comes out and some of the things that he says, like, I sit there and just go, like, fuck, man, like, you are without a doubt the biggest fucking crackhead I have ever fucking seen. Like, but dude, like, he's even said stuff about like talking about, oh, look at this performer's body, and like, dude, you're talking about a 25 to 30-year-old woman and you're like 60 years old and you're talking about,
oh
like,
my
bro,
God, that
like,
stuff fucking does my head in. Just shut up, bro.
but
He
even then, bro, like, guys
sometimes.
at our age, like, certain things, man, I talk about wrestling, bro. Like, I'm not going to sit there and talk about how their bodies look and their, like, dude, that's irrelative of what we're talking about, you know, like, it's still performers, like, you know.
God, some of the stuff he said about Sable back in the day is just horrible.
But bro, like, he would be the sort of person, if someone said shit about him, he'd be the first one, block him on Twitter like a bitch.
Yeah, that's it. We won't get on too much of a Dave Meltzer rant. We're getting right to the end here, bro. I want you to plug everyone out there, where they can find you. What's going on with MWA Podcast Network?
Sure. Well, you can find me on Twitter at Piers Austin. You can also find me on Instagram at Piers Austin 1, Facebook Piers Austin. You can find MWA everywhere on all social media, Instagram and Twitter at MWA World, Facebook at MWA World 1. Twitch at MWA World, MWA Podcast Network on all your podcast platforms, YouTube. Yeah, man, and we've got a lot of shit coming up, man. It's, you know, we're currently got 7 shows at the moment. We've got my show, which is Shooting the Shit Uncensored, which is a similar show to Insider's Edge here with you, where I talk with people involved in the world of pro wrestling. You know, I have a lot of Australian talent on as well, as people from all around the globe. We've also got Killing the Business, which is hosted by ECW original, the Kingpin, Angel Medina. And he's joined with that one with King Mega, indie pro wrestling mainstay and legend, and Sexton, who produces that show. And we've also got Get Funked with Alan Kwee Funk. We've got Knights of the Gimmick Table with Dead Presidents, Boogaloo and Lowrider. We've got the Funk and Kingpin show now, which just launched with Angel and Alan Funk. And we have intern Brad, who helps out on that show. We got NXT Roundup with me and Sexton. We got Wrestling with Sports with Knights of the Gimmick Table with the Dead Presidents and King Mega. And we also got Wrestling with Tragedy, man, which does its stuff. You can find Wrestling with Tragedy everywhere. And you know, we're sort of starting to tap into things that aren't just pro wrestling related with tragedies. We're going into like pop culture and true crime and stuff like that. So, you know, definitely go and check out Wrestling with Tragedy and MWA World. So we got a lot going on, man. That's a lot I just plugged, bro. So I'm sorry I took up half the podcast just plugging that shit.
That's totally fine, bro. Totally fine. Now, Piers, we're at the segment that we always end the show at. It's called 5 Second Frenzy. You have 5 seconds to answer each question. Even if you break the 5 seconds, it's okay. You won't get in trouble. First question: who is your favorite wrestler?
Too long of a list. It depends on the day, bro. It depends on the day.
Depends on the date. Fair enough. If you, this might be another difficult one. If you could pick one match as your favorite match that you've ever seen in professional wrestling, what would you go with?
Ooh, WrestleMania 17, Austin versus Rock.
Excellent, excellent. Getting away from wrestling now. Favorite book?
Ooh, favorite book. fuck, man. The Power of One.
Excellent. Favorite TV show?
Sopranos.
Oh, great choice. Great choice.
Yeah.
Favorite film?
The Godfather.
Excellent. I see.
I'm kind of a mafia. Yeah, I'm a mafia.
Excellent. Favorite musical artist?
Ooh, that's like favorite wrestler, man. But if I have to put it down, Pink Floyd.
Nice, very good.
That's hard, man. That's a hard wrestler. That's a hard wrestler. Your dad's favorite. Now I feel old as fuck.
No, Pink Floyd are great, bro. Okay, getting away from the arts now. There's only 5 more. Favorite food?
Middle Eastern.
Nice. Do you have a favorite place to eat on the road?
Favorite place to eat on the road? You know what? Yeah, I do. 7-Eleven sandwiches. I'm a fiend for that shit, bro. Like, seriously, man, I'll choose that over McDonald's or any takeaway sort of stuff. Is like, yeah, I'll go get a sandwich from 7-Eleven because they're good and they're somewhat healthy.
Cool. Third last one. Favorite alcoholic beverage?
At the moment, White Claw.
Very
don't hold
nice.
that again. Don't hold that against me. But yeah, like
definitely won't, bro. I love seltzers, man. It's
I'm becoming I'm off beer to try and get healthy. Like, not to try and get healthy, but try and not put on too much weight during lockdown. So seltzers are my go-to at the moment.
Excellent, bro. Second last one, the naughtiest one, a 5-second frenzy. Favorite female body part?
Ooh. I don't want to sound like a creep here, dude, but
we've had some varying answers on the show. It can, sometimes it can be a nice one.
Yeah, I'd probably say eyes. Like,
we get eyes.
Yeah, a woman's eyes, man. That gets me. Eyes and a smile. Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. And the last one, favorite curse word?
Cunt. That was easy.
Brilliant, bro. Well, Piers, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Insider's Edge podcast. We're both hustling, we're both grinding, we're both doing our thing. So I thought that this would be a fun conversation to have, and it was. So again, my friend, I just want to thank you for your time, and I appreciate what you're doing over there on the East Coast. You're killing it, man.
Thank you, man. Same to you. Thank you for having me on, bro. You're kicking ass doing your thing over there in WA, man. And in a world where there's a lot of people doing this and not too many people that can do it at a certain level of professionalism, it's good to see you out there grinding, man. You're doing great work. Keep at it, man. There's always that light at the end of the tunnel for both of us, dude. So just keep grinding, bro. Keep doing your thing, man. Keep putting out amazing shows, man. And I'm gonna have to get you on Shooting the Shit sometime down the road too, bro.
Sounds great, bro. It'll be so fun to be interviewed for once.
Fuck yeah, man. This is fun, dude.
Excellent, bro. Well, thank you again, man.
No problem.
And thank you, everyone out there, for watching the Insider's Edge podcast here on the WZWA Network. I'm your host with the most on the West Coast, here with the host with the most on the East Coast. And we will see you next time. Thank you.